The $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau. Picture this scene. It's Monday morning in downtown Portland. Michael Hanna, a sales pro with 25 years of experience, adjusts his Nordstrom suit and colorful tie before heading into another typical workday. Meetings to attend, clients to pitch, the usual flood of emails waiting for him. Then his boss's message pops up, "Can you see me later today?" The morning crawls by with its familiar rhythm of emails, client lunch, and afternoon espresso. But when Michael settles into the chair across from his boss, something feels off. His boss won't look him in the eye. Time slows down. Michael had heard stories like this from other people, but it was always something that happened to someone else, never to him. His boss mumbles something about the economy tanking, about having to let good people go. An HR manager materializes out of nowhere with a cardboard box, an actual cardboard box. Someone escorts him to his desk to pack up his career. By 2:30 that afternoon, he's driving home in a daze, trying to figure out how to break the news to his wife and 2 kids that he's just been fired. Now, this could be where the story ends. Just another depressing tale of corporate life gone wrong. But here's the thing, it's actually just the beginning. What happened next is exactly why we're here today. This story, along with hundreds of others like it, sits at the heart of a quiet revolution that's transforming how we think about work, freedom, and building a life on your own terms. Today we're exploring a book that's way more than a business guide. It's practically a manifesto for a completely different way of living. We're talking about The $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau. This book has sold hundreds of thousands of copies and been translated around the world. Not because it peddles get-rich-quick fantasies, but because it reveals something beautifully simple. You don't need an MBA, crushing debt, or some world-changing idea to create a life of independence and meaning. Chris Guillebeau himself is a fascinating guy. He's less business guru, more modern-day adventurer. While on a quest to visit every country in the world, all 193 of them, he ran his businesses from airport lounges, budget apartments, and cafes scattered across the globe. Along the way, he kept bumping into these unexpected entrepreneurs. Regular folks who had quietly opted out of the traditional career treadmill and built small, profitable businesses around things they actually loved, often for less than the cost of a fancy dinner. So he launched this massive research project, gathering data from over 1,500 of these micro-entrepreneurs to crack their code. What he discovered became the blueprint we're diving into today. Here's my promise. By the time we're done, you'll see that starting your own venture is way more accessible than you ever imagined. You'll have a clear, practical framework for turning a skill you already have into a source of income and freedom. This isn't about fuzzy concepts or wishful thinking. It's a proven model for completely rewriting the rules of work. Let's jump in. So what happened to Michael Hanna, the guy with a suit and the cardboard box? After the initial shock faded, he fell into the brutal grind of unemployment. The job search was rough. Sure, he was qualified, but so was everyone else desperately hunting for work. The whole world seemed to be shifting under his feet. Then one day a friend who owned a furniture store called with an odd proposition. "I've got a truckload of closeout mattresses just sitting here. No use for them. You could probably flip these one at a time on Craigslist and make some decent money." The idea sounded absolutely crazy. Michael knew nothing about mattresses, except that the stores selling them always felt a little sketchy and high pressure. But with nothing else happening, he called his wife. "Honey," he said, "this is going to sound weird, but is it okay if I buy a bunch of mattresses?" He tracked down an old, abandoned car dealership and talked the landlord into letting him set up shop in the showroom. And something funny happened. The mattresses started moving. His biggest challenge? Customers kept asking which mattress they should buy. He had absolutely no idea. But he knew one thing for sure. He wanted to create a welcoming space where people weren't hassled. After that first truckload sold out, Michael took the plunge. He dove deep into learning the industry. His wife built a website. And then they did something that put them on the map in a city like Portland. They launched the industry's first ever mattress delivery by bicycle. A friend built this custom bike with a platform on the back that could carry a king-size mattress. It was quirky, memorable, and people absolutely loved it. 2 years after getting fired, Michael was cleaning out his closet when he spotted that old Nordstrom suit. He hadn't worn it once, hadn't worn any suit since that awful day. He pulled it off the hanger, threw it on his bike, and dropped it off at Goodwill on his way to the mattress store. He says now, "I went from corporate guy to mattress delivery man, and I've never been happier." Michael's story is the perfect gateway into the world of the $100 startup, because it completely shatters the myths we've been fed about what it takes to start a business. He didn't write some 80-page business plan. He didn't go begging banks for a loan. He started with a simple opportunity and less than $1,000. He's what Chris Guillebeau calls an unexpected entrepreneur. The book reveals there are thousands of people just like him all over the world, quietly rewriting the rules. They're living proof that the old choice, get a safe job or take a huge risk starting a company, is completely false. In today's world, that safe job might actually be the riskiest path of all. The new safe road is learning to go out on your own. So how do they pull it off? The entire book boils down to 2 core principles: freedom and value. Freedom is what we're all chasing, the ability to control your own time, work on projects you actually care about, and build a life that's truly yours. Value is how you get there. This is the most crucial lesson, and we'll keep coming back to it. You don't get freedom by wishing for it. You get it by creating something useful for other people. As Chris puts it, value is created when a person makes something useful and shares it with the world. The people in this book didn't just get lucky. They succeeded because they found a way to create value. Often, this happens right at the intersection of something they love doing anyway: a passion, a hobby, a skill, and what other people are willing to pay for. Chris calls this the principle of convergence. Imagine 2 overlapping circles. One circle says your passion or skill. This is what you're good at, what you enjoy, what you could happily talk about for hours. The other circle says what other people care about. This is what the world needs, the problems people have, the desires they want fulfilled. Not everything you're passionate about is marketable. I might be passionate about eating pizza, but nobody's going to pay me to do it. But in that small, sweet spot where the circles overlap, where your passion meets a genuine need in the world, that's where a microbusiness can thrive. That's convergence. This single idea forms the foundation for everything else. You have to find the overlap between what you care about and what other people are willing to spend money on. This leads us to the second core idea, which is beautifully simple yet profound. Chris calls it, give them the fish. Here's a story to illustrate. Imagine you go to a nice restaurant on Friday night. The waiter mentions the special is a delicious salmon risotto. You order it. A few minutes later, the chef comes out to your table. "I understand you've ordered the risotto," she says. "Well, it's a bit tricky to make. Tell you what, wash up and meet me in the kitchen. I'll teach you how to do it." You'd be totally confused, right? You didn't go to the restaurant for a cooking class. You went there to relax and have someone take care of everything. You went there to eat the fish, not to learn how to fish. The old saying, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime, might be solid advice for charity, but it's usually terrible advice for business. Most customers don't want to learn how to fish. They have their own jobs, their own problems. They just want the fish. They want the solution, the end result, the feeling of relief or happiness your product provides. This is the mistake so many aspiring entrepreneurs make. They get excited about the process, the details, all the how-to stuff. They want to bring the customer into the kitchen with them. But the customer just wants dinner. So what are you really selling? The book overflows with examples of people who got this instinctively. Take John and Barbara Varian, who run the V6 Ranch in a tiny California town with a population of 18. They could say they sell horseback rides. That's the feature. That's just describing what it is. But when asked what they sell, Barbara says something way more powerful. We're not selling horse rides. We're offering freedom. Our work helps our guests escape, even if just for a moment in time, and be someone they may have never even considered before. They're selling the benefit, the emotional experience. They're selling the chance to become a cowboy for a weekend. Who wouldn't pay for that? This is the difference between a feature and a benefit. A feature is what your product is. A benefit is what it does for the customer on an emotional level. Jaden Hare, of the popular food blog Steamy Kitchen, isn't just offering recipes. She's helping families spend quality time together making delicious food. Megan Hunt, who makes custom wedding dresses in Omaha, isn't just selling fabric and thread. She's helping brides feel special and create memories of a perfect day. Purna Dugirala, a guy in India who makes over $200,000 a year from a website about Microsoft Excel, isn't selling spreadsheet tutorials. He says his training programs make customers a hero in front of their bosses or colleagues. See the pattern? All these successful businesses focus on the emotional needs of their customers. They understand that what people really want is more love, more money, more acceptance, more free time. And they want less stress, less hassle, less uncertainty. If your business can give people more of what they want and less of what they don't, you're on the right track. You're giving them the fish. This brings us to one of the most common pieces of advice given to young people: follow your passion. The book has a really interesting take on this. Chapter 3 is titled Follow Your Passion, Maybe. That maybe is crucial. Chris argues that passion is a powerful starting point, but it's not enough on its own. A passion only becomes a business when it connects to what other people want, that convergence idea we talked about. He shares the story of Mignon Fogarty. She was passionate about science and started a podcast called Absolute Science. She poured tons of effort into it, but it just never took off. It wasn't making enough money to justify the time. So she pivoted. She had another passion, clear writing and grammar. She launched a new podcast called Grammar Girl. It became a massive hit almost immediately, spawning books and a whole media network. The difference wasn't her level of passion. The difference was that she found a passion that solved a bigger, more urgent problem for a much larger audience. The world had plenty of science podcasts, but it desperately needed someone to make grammar fun and accessible. There's another key point here. You usually don't get paid for your hobby itself. You get paid for helping other people with that hobby. Take Benny Lewis, the professional language hacker. He travels the world learning languages: Spanish, German, French, Czech, even Thai. He's fluent in over 7 of them. He likes to say he gets paid to learn languages. But that's not quite true. Benny doesn't get paid just to know languages. He gets paid because he created a system called Fluent in 3 Months that teaches other people his methods. He shows them how anyone can learn a new language, even if they think they don't have the gift. His business is built on usefulness. His passion is the engine, but the value he provides to others is the vehicle. So the magic formula isn't just passion. The formula is passion or skill plus usefulness equals success. This is the alchemy of a microbusiness. It's the combination of your personal interest with a real-world problem. Okay, so you've found a potential convergence. You have an idea that seems useful. What now? This is where most people freeze up. They think they need to go to business school, write a massive plan, and get a loan. The book argues for the complete opposite. It advocates for a radical bias toward action. Planning is fine, but you can spend your entire life planning and never actually do anything. In the battle between planning and action, action always wins. Look at the story of Jen Adrian and Omar Nouri. They were 2 young designers in Ohio, feeling burnt out just a year after graduating. They were looking for a nice map to chart their travel dreams, but they couldn't find one they loved, so they decided to design their own. The printer had a minimum order of 50 maps, which cost them $500. They only needed 1. But they loved the project, so they each chipped in $250. They hung one on their wall, gave a few to friends, and were left with 44 extra maps. On a whim, Omar asked a crazy question: would anyone want to buy these? They threw up a simple 1-page website with a PayPal button and went to bed. The next morning, they had their first sale, then another. Then, Thanks to a mention on a popular design blog, they sold out their entire stock in 10 minutes. Their inbox flooded with people begging for a reprint. That little side project, born from a personal need and started with almost zero planning, became their full-time business. These are things. Their story perfectly demonstrates the $100 startup model in action. First, start with a marketable idea. It doesn't have to be revolutionary. It just has to be useful. Don't think innovation. Think usefulness. Second, keep costs low. They started with just $500. Most businesses in the book started with less than $1,000, many with less than 100. Third, get the first sale as soon as possible. That first sale is incredibly powerful. It's proof you've created something of value. Fourth, market before you manufacture. They tested the market with the maps they already had. You can even test an idea before you create the product, just to see if there's demand. Fifth, respond to what happens. The market told them, "We want more maps," so they made more maps. You don't need a formal business plan. In fact, the book offers a one-page business plan. It's just a series of simple questions. What will you sell? Who will buy it? How will it help people? What will you charge? How will customers learn about it? That's it. It forces you to get to the core of your idea without drowning in unnecessary details. The goal is to get started now. And once you have something to offer, you need to get the word out. The book has a fantastic chapter on this called Hustling, the Gentle Art of Self-Promotion. The chapter title says it all. Advertising is like sex. Only losers pay for it. The vast majority of businesses studied grew through word of mouth, not paid advertising. But that doesn't mean they just sat back and waited. They hustled. What is hustling? It's the ideal combination of work and talk. A charlatan is all talk with no substance. A martyr does great work, but won't talk about it. A hustler does great work, and then finds authentic, non-sleazy ways to let people know about it. How do you do this? You start with what the book calls strategic giving. This is the idea that the more you help people, without expecting anything immediately in return, the more your business will grow. Think of John Moorfield, the unemployed architect in Seattle. He set up a booth at a farmer's market with a sign that read, 5-cent architecture advice. For a nickel, he'd offer professional advice to anyone who asked. This was brilliant marketing. It generated leads for bigger projects, but more importantly, it got him incredible free publicity from CNN, NPR, and the BBC. He was being genuinely helpful, and the world noticed. Or Megan Hunt, the dressmaker. Her marketing plan is to contact influential bloggers and create a custom dress for them, for free. This always brings in a flood of new customers. She also does little things, like upgrading a customer's shipping to overnight for free, or including a handwritten note and her favorite book with an order. She's building relationships, not just making transactions. This brings up a key insight. Hustling is about building relationships. It's a long-term strategy, not a quick tactic. When you're first starting, make a list of 50 people you know, friends, old colleagues, family. Send each of them a personal note, telling them about your new project, and asking for their help in spreading the word. You're not selling to them. You're inviting them to be part of your journey. Now let's talk about money. This is where so many people get tripped up. The book makes 2 critical points about money. First, as we've said, you don't need much to start. But second, once you start, you absolutely must focus on profit. Naomi Dunford, founder of a marketing consultancy called IttyBiz, puts it bluntly. Remember that the goal of business is profit. It's not being liked, or having a huge social media presence, or having amazing products that nobody buys. A business without money is just a hobby. So how do you make more of it? The book outlines 3 powerful principles for increasing profitability. Principle 1. Price your product based on the benefit it provides, not the cost to produce it. This goes back to the idea of value. How much is that cowboy experience at the V6 ranch worth? Way more than the cost of feeding a horse. Gary Leff, the travel consultant, charges a flat fee of $250 to book complex award ticket vacations. Sometimes it takes him 2 hours, sometimes 10 minutes. But his customers don't care about his time. They care about the $5,000 first-class trip he just got them for free using their miles. The value is huge, so the price feels like a bargain. Don't compete on price. Compete on value. Principle 2. Offer a limited range of prices. Never offer just one price. Why? Because when you offer one price, the customer's question is, should I buy this or not? But when you offer 3 price points, say a budget version, a standard version, and a premium version, the question changes. It becomes, which one should I buy? This is the Apple model. You can get the entry-level iPhone, the mid-tier, or the Pro Max. Some people will always buy the most expensive option. Most will choose the middle, but by offering a choice, you dramatically increase your average sale price. Principle 3. Get paid more than once for the same thing. This is the magic of recurring revenue. Subscriptions, memberships, continuity programs. Think of Netflix. You don't just buy one movie. You pay every month for access. This creates reliable, predictable income. Almost any business can create a recurring revenue stream. There are Pickle of the Month clubs, Dog Treat of the Month clubs, Cupcake of the Month clubs. Brandon Pierce, the piano teacher, didn't just sell software. He created a subscription service, Music Teacher's Helper, that brings in over $30,000 a month because thousands of teachers pay him a small fee every single month. This model is incredibly powerful for building a stable, long-term business. As a business grows, every owner faces a choice. Where do we go from here? Do you stay small and nimble, or do you scale up? The book calls this going long, and it makes it clear there's no right answer. Some people, like Cherie Vayard, who runs a software company from an RV while traveling the country, make a deliberate choice to stay small. She watched her father's passion get crushed as his business grew to 50 employees, and she decided that wasn't the life she wanted. She says, I own my business. The business doesn't own me. Others, like Tom Bean, who runs a successful bag manufacturing company in Seattle with over 20 employees, choose to grow but on their own terms. He's turned down lucrative deals to have his bags sold in big box retail stores because he wants to control the brand and maintain a direct relationship with his customers. He's chosen to go medium. The point is, you get to decide. You can become as big as you want to be, and no bigger. The goal is to build a business that serves your life, not the other way around. This brings us to the final, and perhaps most important, question. The one that stops so many people before they even start. But what if I fail? The book is packed with stories of failure, launches that flopped, partnerships that went sour. But the refrain is always the same. I tried something and it didn't work out, so I moved on to something else. Failure isn't the end. In this model, where you haven't bet your life savings, failure is just data. It's a learning experience. But the most powerful story about failure comes from John T. Unger, a sculpture artist from Michigan. He says the third best thing that ever happened to him was having the roof of his studio collapse while he was standing on it shoveling snow. The disaster forced the bank to take a real look at his business, and he ended up getting a loan to buy 2 new buildings. The second best thing that happened to him was losing his last day job during the dot-com crash. It led to him losing everything. His income, his apartment, his girlfriend, but it also forced him to go all in on his art. And the best thing that ever happened to him? A terrifying late-night encounter, where a crazed cab driver held a gun to his head for 10 minutes. He escaped, and as he walked out into the cold Michigan night, trembling but alive, he yelled at the sky, "I get it! I'm just so lucky!" He says after that, you don't worry about the small things anymore. The fear of failure is real, but what are we really afraid of? Losing money we didn't invest? Being embarrassed? The stories in this book suggest that the real failure is spending your life building someone else's dream. The risk of staying in a job you don't love, of never trying, is way greater than the risk of starting small and seeing what happens. At the end of their interviews, Chris asked these successful entrepreneurs about the moment they knew. The moment they realized their little project was actually going to work. For Gary Leff, it was getting his very first check for his travel consulting service. For Kyle Hepp, the photographer, it was sitting in a fancy hotel in Italy and getting an email from a bride in the U.S. willing to pay over $5,000 to fly her in for a wedding. She realized, if one person is willing to do this, there are probably more. These moments aren't about the money. They're moments of validation. They're proof that you've created value, that you've helped someone, that you're on the right path. And that's the journey the $100 startup invites us on. It's a journey that starts not with some grand vision, but with a small step, with a single question: how can I be useful to someone else today? You start there. You take action. You learn as you go. And you build, brick by brick, a life of freedom and purpose. When you distill the $100 startup down to its essence, it's not really a book about business. It's a book about empowerment. Its most profound message isn't about profit margins or marketing tactics. It's the radical idea that you already have everything you need to begin. The skills you've picked up over the years, the hobbies you pour your heart into, the little problems you've figured out how to solve for yourself, these aren't just trivial parts of your life. They're the raw materials for your own independence. The book serves as a powerful permission slip. It gives you permission to stop waiting. To stop thinking you need more education, more capital, more experience, or someone else's approval. What I find so compelling is how it reframes our entire concept of risk. We've been raised to believe the safe path is to get a good education, find a stable job, and climb the corporate ladder. But as we saw with Michael Hanna's story at the very beginning, that stability can vanish in an instant. The book argues that true security doesn't come from a paycheck signed by someone else. It comes from your ability to create value for other people. Once you learn that skill, you're never without options. You're in control of your own economy. That's a fundamentally different and way more resilient approach to your career and your life. The other beautiful lesson here is the deep connection between generosity and success. The most effective marketing strategy outlined in the book isn't about clever ads or slick persuasion. It's strategic giving. It's about being genuinely, relentlessly helpful. When you make your business about helping others, the book shows, you'll never be short of work. This flips the selfish caricature of the entrepreneur on its head. It suggests that the most successful businesses are actually the most generous ones. They win by creating real value and building trust, not by trying to extract as much money as possible. So how can you start applying these ideas right now, today? Here are a few simple actions. First, grab a piece of paper and make 2 columns. In the first column, write down 3 things you're good at or passionate about. It could be anything: organizing closets, playing guitar, baking sourdough bread, understanding history. In the second column, for each of those things, write down a problem it could solve for someone else. Does your organizational skill help a busy parent feel less stressed? Does your guitar playing help someone celebrate a special occasion? This is the first step toward finding that all-important convergence. Second, try writing a 140-character mission statement for a hypothetical business based on one of those ideas. The formula is simple. I help customers do or achieve primary benefit. For example, I help busy professionals feel proud of their homes by creating simple, beautiful, organizational systems. This little exercise forces you to think in terms of benefits, not just features. And finally, do something small to test one of your ideas. You don't need to build a website. Just talk to 3 people who you think might be your target customers. Ask them about the problem you think you can solve. Don't pitch them anything. Just listen. See if the problem is real. This is the beginning of market research. It costs nothing, and it's the first step on the path of action. That was a summary of The $100 Startup by Chris Guillebeau. We've explored the main highways of this incredible book today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a travel brochure. The real adventure begins when you pack your own bags and take the trip yourself. The true power of this book isn't just in the concepts. It's in the dozens of specific, inspiring stories that make you believe, deep down, that this is possible for you. This summary is your map, but if anything we've talked about today has sparked a fire in you, I urge you to get a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can fundamentally change how you see your own potential and your place in the world. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets me know we're on the right track, and it ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.